Brand owners are currently searching for ways to transition packaging from multi-layer or extruded materials that are difficult to recycle to monolayer materials that are friendlier to the recycling stream. One of the brands that's working on that right now is with us today. We have Brian Stepowany, Senior Manager of Packaging R&D at B&G Foods. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to Pack Expo Connects today.
Good. You're working on this dynamic now, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your approach?
Well, everyone is very familiar with sustainability, cleaning the oceans, less plastic in the waste stream. So B&G Foods is looking at these various opportunities to go to sustainable films and packaging components. Being with Green Giant, a lot of our frozen food and even some of the shelf-stable food is in multi-layer polyethylene bags or just multi-layer bags. With that, we've been contacting companies, looking at what type of materials are available in the marketplace today. We started working with about 4 suppliers. We're down to 2 at this point, and we're just trying to evaluate where these companies are at with the supply chain of these monolayer materials, making sure that they can accept the how to recycle labeling. That's key as far as the industry and what seems to be the most common way of identifying recycled material and allowing people to understand a little bit better how that material can go into the recycling stream. So what we're looking at is just the different layers and materials and what can be labeled correctly.
And are you having any issues in sourcing? You said you were working with 4 suppliers, most recently 2 suppliers. Some folks have some problems sourcing sustainable packaging materials. Are you experiencing any of that?
Well, we're basically in the development portion at this time. So that is one of the critical factors is if we move to a monolayer material that we aren't going to have longer lead times and of course price. That's one of the factors that we're trying to leverage with the Green Giant is we don't want to pay additional for recyclable material. Right now, these key suppliers are pretty much in development and just getting ready to perform some line trials on the monolayer recyclable film that can be microwave cooked. A lot of the stuff you see available is basically simply for shelf-stable or frozen materials, not that can be cooked in the microwave. That gets into the heat, the temperatures up to 200 degrees or so, that these monolayers, and there's a lot of limitations on the laminations and coatings that can be used to adhere these layers together so they can still be recyclable. So we're working with a couple of companies on that. And one of the problems we have, especially with COVID, is line time and availability to do the line trials, to do the R&D work, things of that nature.
Okay. Now, monomaterials aren't the only real route to sustainability. In fact, we've talked about quite a few today. Some brands are actually taking the opposite approach, and instead of going to monolayer materials, they're actually adding layers in order to extend shelf life. Have you had any experience with that?
Because the majority of our products are frozen, we really don't get into the shelf life scenario. And that's obviously, back in the day, first you had foil, then you have metallized materials, things of that nature. The shelf life hasn't been one of the issues. It's mainly cost and just runnability and functionality. Because obviously the majority of the frozen foods, people want to put into the microwave, let it cook for 3 or 5 minutes, and boom, you're ready to put it on the table to serve. So that's one of the issues of main concern is basic supply chain cost and just having the time right now with COVID going on as far as what we can do in our R&D labs.
Right. So you mentioned COVID and everybody stretched a little thin. So how has the pandemic affected you on your sustainability journey to kind of create the infrastructure to pick up where you left off?
Generally, what we've done because of COVID is we have to concentrate on basically fulfilling our supply chain. We can't really pull away people or machines because we have to run to keep our supply chain full. So we're hoping to basically go into more of a forward motion move with sustainability in the fourth quarter of this year.
Okay. So with that in mind, what are the next steps for B&G and the whole big picture of sustainability and packaging?
I think it's just kind of, identifying what we can move now and what we can identify as far as next steps, what we can do in 2021 and moving forward. Obviously, there's some easy things with just the polyethylene bags, non-microwave, looking at cans, bottles, things of that nature. So we're just trying to get it all together and, get through COVID, get everything back square, and then basically understand our steps moving forward.
Okay. Well, thanks, Brian. Recyclability is definitely a central theme in all of our discussions today.